Everything's bigger in Texas, they say, and well, it's a pretty big stage today for the Eagles as they fight to keep postseason hopes alive. And how fitting is it? It's the Cowboys standing in their way. And rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts, he's been here before, leading his Oklahoma team to a Big 12 championship in this very stadium just a year ago. Can he do it again today when the stakes are even higher? Here's the weather report from our friends at NBC 10. A warm day for December, 72 degrees, but they're indoors anyway in that big AT&T Stadium. Maybe they got the roof open. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. And of course, always great to have you with us here on the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Amy Campbell. Fran Duffy joining me as always, and a little bit of a holiday treat for the folks. The Eagles insider Dave Spadaro joining us early in the show today. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Amy. Hello, Fran. Happy holidays to you. Excited for this one today. Giants are down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, so part one of the things that need to happen outside of the Philadelphia Eagles are, in fact, happening. It's an exceptional day for football.
We're going to be watching closely as many dominoes fall today, and we'll hopefully have a clearer picture later in the day. But I'm going to turn it over to the two of you fans, of course. If you guys follow throughout the week, Dave and Fran bring us a live inside access to Eagles practice, inside access that you can't get anywhere else. And so perhaps a little bit more of a taste of that today with the warm-ups from our friends at PA Lottery. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Well, thanks so much, Amy. As we head over to AT&T Stadium, the guy we all want to talk about, rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts. Dave, excited to get what you think is going to be big for him here. His third start, his second on the road, his first rivalry game. What are you expecting to see here from Jalen Hurts here today against Dallas?
Fran, so the Cowboys have some book on Jalen Hurts, and we've seen different approaches from New Orleans in his first start, from Arizona last week. We saw Hurts in a 16-point hole in the first quarter of that game. Calm, cool, collected as the Eagles came back from that and should have had a lead in the second half of that game. I expect to see him make maybe more decisions at the line of scrimmage based on what Dallas is giving him. And here's my thought process. With Deshaun Jackson active, and we'll talk more about him and his potential impact in this game, can Dallas really stack the box and stop the run? And if Jalen Hurts sees that, does he take a shot down the field with Deshaun Jackson? All of a sudden, Fran, with D-Jax in there, with Rager, with Quez Watkins, with Miles Sanders, with 2 athletic tight ends, the Eagles are fast on offense, and that was one of the priorities that they had in the offseason. Get younger and get faster. And today on offense, really for the first time, as we take a look at Zach Ertz there, they have that speed. They've got a lot of versatility. It's going to be fun to watch Jalen Hurts make his adjustments at the line of scrimmage. That's what I'm looking for.
I mean, so much juice on the field for this Eagles offense as we take a look at the offensive starters. And, you know, Dave, you mentioned what the wide receiver position will look like here today. You're going to take a look, obviously, at Alshon Jeffrey, the veteran, is there. We're going to see Jalen Rager, the rookie first-round pick. Greg Ward will be working in the slot. How much will we see from Deshaun Jackson? He's going to be in the mix, but I'm interested to kind of get your thoughts. How do you feel that number 10 will be featured here today?
That's the great question. And how much chemistry in just a couple of days of practice this week have he and Jalen Hurts been able to accumulate? I mean, they have not practiced prior to this week at all together. And I would imagine Jalen probably threw exactly 0 passes to Jackson in practices because it was Carson Wentz starting earlier in the season. So how much juju do they have going on together with that deep ball? Now, we have seen Jalen throw a very nice deep ball, and Deshaun is healthy, and he's got a little history playing in Dallas. I think it's a little bit of poetic justice here with number 10 back in the lineup, but I do expect him to be mixed in, Fran. It's just a matter of his health, his conditioning, a bit more of a heated day in the dome there at AT&T Stadium. So I think it's going to be very fun to watch the variance that the Eagles can bring to the table in this offense. But I don't think he's going to play 60 snaps, but maybe you see 25 snaps and a couple of shots down the field.
Yeah, I mean, as you talked about earlier, this is an offense that now, on paper, can win in a lot of different ways, depending on how Dallas wants to try and stop them. If they're going to try and load the box against the run, now you've got all that speed on the outside. If you want to help those corners out, well, this guy, number 26, could be a featured weapon here today against a defense that has struggled to stop the run throughout the majority of the season. Another big factor with that, we're going to have the offensive line, the same unit, starting this game for the third time in 3 weeks, Dave. That hasn't happened all season for this Eagles offense.
Are you talking about stability on the offensive line, Fran? This doesn't happen. And by the way, you're being way too generous. The Cowboys have not, quote unquote, struggled against the run. They flat out suck against the run. They have been gashed all year, 160 plus yards per game, 180 plus yards the last 3 weeks. They're 32nd in the league against the run. And yet you look at Deshaun talking with Jalen right there and you go, hey, let's cook up some magic here in this Week 16 game against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm feeling the holiday spirit. I'm feeling a little bit of magic here. I know the Eagles are only 4-9-1, but I feel like it's such a bonus to be in a game where something matters, where a division is still within reach. We need to see, obviously, the Carolina Panthers beat up on the Washington football team today for that to happen. But as far as the Eagles here, I just think Hurts is going to have, if the offensive line, Fran, holds up, and we're going to watch Matt Pryor and DeMarcus Lawrence a lot, if the offensive line holds up and the Cowboys missing 3 starters from a week ago, Woods at defensive tackle, Van Der Esch at tackle, Xavier Woods at safety, I just feel like the Eagles have their way a little bit against the Cowboys defense today. Is that what you're going into this game feeling?
I am. I think when you look at the ways that the Eagles will try and attack them, the run game is going to be a big part of that. And that's, to me, I asked you earlier about what did you expect to see from Jalen Hurts today? I mean, really, if you kind of sum it up, if you really kind of cut it down to brass tacks, I mean, Jalen Hurts, a lot of his biggest plays against New Orleans had to do with his legs. And I thought some of his best plays against Arizona in his second start had to do with his arm. I can't wait to see what the third iteration looks like here today. My guess, it'll be a good mix of both. And this is a defense in Dallas that has had a lot of issues, as you highlighted. But let's look at this Eagles defense as we take a look at the defensive starters as we see guys huddled up here on the line on the goal line. This Eagles defense has created a bunch of turnovers in the last few weeks. We highlight Brandon Graham here. Excited to get your takes. Where were you when you first found out Brandon Graham was going to his first Pro Bowl? And how happy are you, the number 55, able to add that accolade to his resume this late in his career?
You know, just as an example, Fran, all week people have talked about how happy the organization is that Brandon made his first Pro Bowl. I was doing a Zoom call for our corporate services department, and it was with Zach Ertz and Chris Long, the former Eagles defensive end. And so I broke the news during that event, and they were both so thrilled. And Chris Long, who played with the Eagles in 2017, 2018, could not have been happier for Brandon Graham, who first-round draft pick in 2010, we'll hear from him later in the show, has changed in the defensive scheme through the years. Everybody in the organization loves BG. He's so cooperative. He's invested in the community of Philadelphia. He's going to be here for a long time after his playing career is over. Obviously, a Super Bowl 52 hero. So great news that he makes the Pro Bowl, that he gets to add that to his career resume. And I think today, on the defense, I'm going to go back to football here. BG and Vinny Curry and Jannard Avery, who is emerging from mothballs, playing very little this year. Joe Ostman up from the practice squad. Maybe Malik Jackson takes some reps on the edge. Without Derek Barnett, without Josh Sweat, Fran, as you know, that edge pass rush takes a hit. Those two players really bring it off the edge. And so today, the Eagles are going to need some guys like Ostman and Avery to really show up and play.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Dallas offense. They want to get the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands fast, not just because of some of the limitations he has, but that offensive line, I mean, they have just been crushed with injuries. Just one opening day starter remaining from that group. Kind of similar to the Eagles situation, but I would say the Eagles have had just more guys in and out of the lineup. Dallas is certainly missing some of their best players up front. We'll see if the Eagles can win some of those matchups. I would say the next big storyline on the defensive side of the ball, Dave, the return of Darius Slay. Big play Slay missed this past week against Arizona. He returns to the lineup. Well, obviously, we'll see Michael Jacquet still in the mix there. But I think when you look at Nickel Roby-Coleman and Darius Slay, how do you feel that this receiving core for Dallas will match up against this Eagles secondary? What do you envision the matchups being?
I think it's a tough matchup for the Eagles. I would guess that Slay goes on Amari Cooper in single coverage. And then I think you have to bracket or double or do whatever you can do against CeeDee Lamb, the sensational Cowboys rookie receiver. So I'm not looking for single coverage against both of those receivers, but I do think Slay is now healthy, looking forward to the challenge of playing against Cooper. And when we think back to the first matchup, November 1st, not very fair, right? Ben DiNucci, the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys got nothing going offensively. Michael Gallup had a decent game, but Cooper was an afterthought, and Lamb was under control. But the emergence of Lamb makes this a multi-pronged attack in the pass game. So I think it's a tough matchup for the Eagles, who last week gave up way too much to Kyler Murray, to DeAndre Hopkins, to Larry Fitzgerald. I think having Darius Slay back gives you a little bit of swagger and gives you a little bit of confidence that he can match up in individual coverage against Amari Cooper. And then you got to try to take away CeeDee Lamb, and don't forget Michael Gallup. So to me, Fran, it all starts back at the line of scrimmage. Dominate a so-so at best Dallas Cowboys offensive line. And Andy Dalton ain't running away from anybody, so make him get off his spot. I give Dalton a lot of credit for stabilizing the Cowboys offense these last couple of weeks. No giveaways. Today that has to change.
We see Alex Singleton there, centered in our screen. This is a guy that really has come into the forefront of this Eagles defense, has played nearly every single defensive snap over the last month and change. What are you expecting to see from Singleton here today? Kind of a unique test here against this Dallas offensive front, namely with that run game.
All of a sudden, Alex Singleton is a tackling machine, right? Like an afterthought to make the roster. He's got 3 straight games with 10-plus tackles. He's got 5 overall. He's been sideline to sideline. He's very comfortable calling the defense. He's going to be critical today against Ezekiel Elliott, who is playing, and against Tony Pollard, who had a good game last week. But we kind of take into account what the Cowboys do offensively, and we think that it's a vintage offensive line. This is not the case. The Eagles have a decided advantage at the line of scrimmage against the Cowboys, who've been racked by injuries at the offensive line, tackle positions, and with Zach Martin out at the guard position. So, look, I mean, I think Alex explained it pretty well during the week. It's really not all that hard playing behind this front four. There's a lot to just go to the football and clean it up. You know, you're getting off blocks. You're able to get to the ball carrier very quickly. And I think that that's what Alex Singleton is going to do today. Go tackle the football and just be very sure in his tackling. And we'll see how healthy Ezekiel Elliott is with that calf injury. He's had a down season. The Cowboys' run game is not the same. And I think for the Eagles' defense, Fran, you can't let that run game get going. Everything works off of play action. You don't want Andy Dalton to have time to look down the field and throw to an outstanding group of 3 wide receivers who probably rival any threesome in the NFL.
I mean, we would not have said that we would be looking at this Dallas offense in the run game as a 1-2 punch, with Ezekiel Elliott being, the number 1 guy, but that number 2 guy in Tony Pollard being a definite part of the offensive game plan. He has been their big play back this year. You go back even just this past week in their past win over San Francisco, he has got game-breaking ability. So the Eagles linebackers, the safeties, have to be aware of where he is at all times. Real quickly, Dave, before we wrap things up, I want to go back over to the offensive side as we take a look at the rookie. Quez Watkins had his first career touchdown in just his second snap last week against Arizona. To me, the guy that I'm most focused on here, and this is a little bit of an interesting one, Dallas Goedert, the tight end, to me has always found ways to have big games against the Dallas Cowboys, namely down at that stadium. I'll be keeping an eye here on number 88. I feel like there is some weakness there down the seam for this Dallas defense. I kind of wonder if Goedert will be on the receiving end of some big-time throws from Jalen Hurts.
So, Fran, if you believe in baseball, strength down the middle, right? That's what they talk about. In the case of the Dallas Cowboys defense, no Antoine Woods at defensive tackle, no Leighton Vander Esch at middle linebacker, and no Xavier Woods at safety. So, yeah, you would think down the middle of the field. Now, Jalen really hasn't gone down the middle of the field and done a lot of damage there. So we have seen Goedert, who is an exceptional player, receiving tight end. He matches up very favorably for the Eagles against anybody. Yeah, I'd like to see the Eagles maybe work from the inside out, exploiting the Cowboys in the secondary. The Dallas Cowboys are healthier at cornerback than they've been in previous games. I think it's probably a smart play, Fran, to go to Goedert, to go to Ertz, and see if you can expose some of that underbelly of the Dallas Cowboys defense, which just isn't very good.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they've got injuries up the middle. That happens to be one of the weakest points when all their guys are healthy. So certainly a sore spot here for this Dallas defense as we start to bring this back here into the studio at the NovaCare Complex. This is a really going to be a fun game. We've covered some of the things that I think we want to hit on here for this matchup as we welcome back in Amy Campbell. Amy, I know we've got a lot more to hit on here the rest of the show.
Oh boy, do we. And of course, thanks as always to PA Lottery for bringing us those warm-ups. And fans, of course, you can catch Dave and Fran with more of that magic this week at practice, bringing you an inside look of practice that you can't get anywhere else. All right, let's keep going with breaking down this game. Dave, let's get your Fox Bet storyline to watch for this one.
Well, we've talked about the Dallas defense and the run defense in particular and how just very sorry it has been this year. So the Eagles, yeah, they're going to run the football, but are they going to stick with the run game? They didn't do that on November 1st. They had 89 rushing yards in the first half. They scored only 7 points. They went away from the run, and the offense really didn't do a whole lot the entire game. So the question today for me is, will Doug Peterson stick with the run game? I think it's going to be very hard for Dallas to contend with Jalen and with Miles on the edge. A little bit of power inside. Remember, Jordan Howard is active. So I'm focusing on the run game, and do the Eagles stay with it?
So obviously the run game going to be pivotal here in this matchup, Dave. But what is your key to victory? What is the big thing that is going to be your focus here for a win for the Eagles in this game?
Fran, we can get our heads cluttered with statistics sometimes, but this one means something, and it always does. The turnover ratio. The Cowboys have resurrected their season. They're thinking division title as well are the Eagles, and they've done it by winning the turnover battle. In victories over Cincinnati and San Francisco, they've taken the football away 7 times. They've given it away 0 times. So to me, the Eagles have to win the turnover battle. Get after Andy Dalton. He's not going to run away from anybody. Take away the football, give Jalen Hurts some favorable field position, and win that statistic and win the ball game. And maybe next week, right out here at Lincoln Financial Field, the Eagles are playing for a division title.
We sure hope so. And of course, very telling numbers there, Dave. Dave, we're going to let you go for now. We'll catch up with you in the post-game show presented by Rico. Enjoy this one.
I hope to see you with a big smile on my face after the game.
Yes, that's what we're all hoping for, a happy post-game show. All right, Fran, let's get into your key to victory for the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, I thought Dave and I kind of hit on it right at the end of warm-ups and in terms of Jalen Hurts working the middle of the field. And look, I mentioned the big step that he made from start 1 to start 2, making plays with his legs, then making plays with his arm. I thought a lot of the biggest throws this past week against the Cardinals came outside the numbers. He was throwing with anticipation. He was getting rid of the ball early, on time, throwing his guys open out along the sideline, namely on one-on-one routes. That's good. That's something we didn't necessarily see from him during his days at Alabama and Oklahoma. To me, the next step is, can you make those kinds of throws in the middle of the field? Because while they aren't as far, you are dealing with more traffic. You're dealing with more bodies in the middle of the field, especially against zone coverage. You've got linebackers, safeties lurking over the middle. You want to be able to make those throws, attack every part of the field. If you're able to do that, now the defense really can't hone in on any one part of your game. When you've got the run game going, you've got play action, you can make throws outside the numbers and work the middle of the field. Well, now you're cooking with gas. And to me, that's the next big thing I want to see here from rookie Jalen Hurts. We've seen some really good things here, plenty that he needs to work on, but I'm excited to see here what start number 3 looks like here in his rookie campaign.
Fun fact, that is one of my favorite expressions ever, cooking with gas. All right, for my key, I'm going to blend all of these things we have all talked about here. Fran, you talked about how the Dallas defense is very vulnerable. Dave also mentioned it. Up the middle of that field. What do the Eagles do well? What have they done well in these last couple of weeks that we've seen that offense sparked? Establish the run early and establish the run often. And I think Miles Sanders is the key today. You talked about that Dallas defense being the worst rushing defense in the NFL. They also allow the longest yards per carry in the NFL, allowing 5 yards per carry. Miles Sanders averaging 5.77 yards per carry. And we've seen how Jalen Hurts' running ability has opened things up for Miles, and Miles has opened things up for Jalen. So it's there for the taking for the Eagles. We talked about those vulnerabilities in that Dallas defense. They're without Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker. They're without nose tackle Antoine Woods, and of course Xavier Woods at safety as well. A lot of vulnerability there, and I think that could be a great matchup for what the Eagles do well. Dallas has a really hard time stopping. So those are a couple of players I think could make a big impact today. Let's now send it over to Mike Quick and Merrill Reese to get their players to watch for today's game.
Mike, the roof is opened at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And who is your player to watch?
It's really simple. Darius Big Play Slay is back, and I think he's going to follow Amari Cooper. I want to watch that matchup. If you look at past games, that hasn't always worked out well with Big Play Slay following the number 1 target. That's going to be the case today. I want to watch that matchup.
Well, I can understand why. You know, I have to tell you, It's been a long time, but still, the prospect of number 10, Deshaun Jackson, going deep, and Jalen Hurts finding him in stride, that really excites me. Hopefully we'll see that today.
Merrill Reese, not even in Arlington, Texas, but still giving us the inside scoop that the roof is open. I'm so glad we know that. All right, let's move on to Brandon Graham. We have talked about how excited everyone is for him. A Super Bowl champion, made one of the most iconic plays in Eagles lore, but that Pro Bowl nod has eluded him until this week. Eagles Nation has celebrated, and Brandon Graham has found out that he has made his very first Pro Bowl, and he sat down with our own Mike Quick in this week's one-on-one interview from Pond Hockey.
So, Brandon, first of all, congratulations on your first selection to the Pro Bowl. As you've had now a couple of days to reflect on it and really enjoy the moment, tell me, what are your thoughts?
Like what I did in the D-line room, I wanted to thank them boys because I know it took all of us, especially this year with us leading in sacks and doing little different things. We knew that we had a good group, and I'm just thankful that we all work well together. And some people miss sacks for me to get them because it all works like that sometimes. And I'm just thankful to finally get up on that board. But I knew it took all of us, and I want to thank everybody. People all through the journey, you know, I called old coaches, told the wife. That was the first person I called with the wife to let her know, you know, you won just as much as I won, because you kept me focused, kept me not reaching for sacks, and kept my mind clear of a lot of stuff that I was probably going to stress about if she wasn't there.
I heard there was quite a celebration once you got home. Tell us a little bit about the celebration.
Man, it was a lot of screaming and yelling, and can't believe what we talked about actually happened. It actually happened this year, and we was just finally gonna be up on that wall. And now talking with the wife, she like, now that we can't play a game this year, so you got to go out and make it again next year so we can get, because you owe us a game. We got to be able to go down and play.
So you've mentioned the wall a couple of times. A lot of people don't know about the wall over at the NovaCare complex. Tell us about, you walked by this wall now for 11 years. You'll finally get on the wall. Tell us about the wall.
Oh man, you see all the Pro Bowl players on the wall. People done sign. They got it now where people sign they picture, and you always just, every time I walk past, I say, man, I'm gonna get up on that wall. I know I'm gonna get on there before I get up out of here. You see all the former players that made it to the Pro Bowl, even from back then. You still up there. Everybody's up there, and so I want to be up there with the great people that have made it to the Pro Bowl that came through this organization.
And now you're getting ready to go down to Texas to play the Dallas Cowboys. What is it about this team and this defense in particular? You guys seem to play so well at the end or the latter part of the season.
I think everybody's just more focused and detailed right now. We've been through a lot of stuff. We've been through a lot of adversity. We know what this team is all about because we've been through some things together. And now we're just trying to put it all together as a whole because we got a breath of fresh air with Jalen in there now. He's a young guy, just want to go out there and prove people that he belongs in this league, and I know all about that. So we just try to make sure we make him comfortable, but we make sure we do our part too on defense because you know, that'll help him out a whole lot, flipping the field and making sure we handle our business.
Well, in Dallas, you're going to see an offensive line that kind of like the Eagles, they've been in flux and a lot of different players. Terrence Steele was there the last time you guys played, but Brandon Knight now is going to be at the left tackle spot. Give me a little scouting report on those two tackles.
They like to jump. They like to jump you to stop your charge. 14, Andy Dalton back there, he gets rid of it pretty quick. But we got a good game plan to make sure that he hold it a little bit to get us back there, because we do got to take advantage of the issues up front. And with us, we just gotta be us on that day. We gotta make sure we getting off the rock, assault in the pocket, which we talk about all the time. Assault in the pocket, making sure we collapse it on them so that we can get to them, because we know it's gonna start with us up front, making sure we stopping that run, knocking them back, and making sure that we attacking that throwing arm so that we can influence where this quarterback is going to go. We want to make sure we dictate other than them dictate.
BG, we know it's the giving season, but all we want to give in Dallas is a good whipping, so best of luck down in Dallas.
I appreciate you, man. That's all we want to do is give them a good whooping. We don't even want to make it close so that we ain't got to go too hard all game.
All right, man. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
I mean, there is a reason that everybody was extra excited when Brandon Graham made the Pro Bowl finally. We know how important it is to him, and it's a guy that we all love so much. Fran, what has he meant to this team?
Well, I mean, Dave said it earlier, just the consistent buy-in from him, and not just, what he does on the field, but everything off the field. Everyone that deals with him, whether it's our department with Eagles Entertainment, whether it's community relations and public relations, everybody that deals with Brandon Graham, you get that same smile that we just saw at the end of that interview with Mike Quick. I mean, it's always that same kind of mentality, that same kind of personality. He's the same guy every day. And then when you watch him on film, yeah, he's the same guy every day. Every year, doesn't matter who the coach is, doesn't matter what the scheme is, doesn't matter where he's lining up. He's going to give you that same effort, that same fanatical pursuit to the football, that same play personality that is contagious. He has helped set the culture, not just in that defensive line room maybe, but on that defensive side of the football.
Well, and Dave mentioned doing a corporate event with some of the Eagles players and former players, and I have done several as well, and I never quite know which player I'm going to get till kind of the last minute. Every time I find out that it's Brandon Graham, it's like, they're all great, but like BG is just, there's something special about him. You talk about that buy-in and that positivity. Just a guy that is an all-time great person. And of course, his journey in the NFL has been a bit up and down. He's had some injuries. He came in as a high draft pick and didn't necessarily explode the way that a lot of people expected right away. But now 11 years in, a lot of people are saying he's playing his best football this year. Do you think he's playing his best football this year?
I don't know if he's playing his best football, but he's playing the same level of football that I've seen from him over the course of his career. I mean, you go back, think about this. He was drafted in 2010. The defensive coordinator was Sean McDermott. Then the next year after that, it's Juan Castillo and it's Todd Bowles. Then after that, it's Bill Davis in 2013. It was a pretty consistent flow. Those first 4 years, he had 4 different coordinators. And then you go and look at the defensive line room. There are so many different coaches that have been in and out of that room, not just during that time frame, but even here in the last 4 or 5 years. I think when you look at Brandon Graham, you look at Fletcher Cox, you look at Vinny Curry, the guys that have been the mainstays. BG was drafted in 2010, the other 2 drafted in 2012. Those guys have seen so much turnover, so it's been up to them as the veterans, the leaders in that room, to help maintain that culture, help set the tone for the guys, again, not just in that room, but on the defensive side of the ball, and that shows up on film every single Sunday.
Well, and the Eagles have a couple other Pro Bowlers this year, both in the trenches as well. Jason Kelce, another Pro Bowl appearance, well-deserved after especially the season he's been having, holding down that offensive line with so much turnover. And then let's talk a little bit about Fletcher Cox. He makes his 6th consecutive. And Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox right next to each other, now both Pro Bowlers. How much better do they make each other on that defensive line?
I mean, they certainly help each other, but you look at BG lined up at left defensive end, Fletcher Cox lined up at left defensive tackle. The impact that they have really certainly helps what those guys do. But then you look on the other side too. I mean, I don't think that any of the other defensive linemen that have played, whether it's been Timmy Jernigan or Derek Barnett, Chris Long, all those guys that have lined up along those guys, they can all speak to the impact that Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham bring. They're always getting slide protections that way because they're both always on the same side together more often than not. So they're always dealing with extra attention. They always find ways to be disruptive. Just so happy for both those guys, but especially for BG getting that Pro Bowl nod this year.
Yeah, he crosses a big one off of his list of goals there. The other one that he still hasn't had yet, a double-digit sack season. He's 3 away. A lot of opportunity today against a vulnerable Dallas offensive line that has been giving up some sacks this season. We'll have to keep an eye on it. All right, we are going to take a quick break before we give our final thoughts on this matchup. Stay with us. The Philadelphia Eagles and Axalta Coating Systems have built a roster of all-pro teachers. Go to philadelphiaeagles.com/Axalta All-Pro Teachers to view this year's list of outstanding recipients. And that brings us to 15 minutes to kickoff, which people should know what that means by now. But in case they don't, Fran, you want to educate our friends here?
Well, Amy, I don't know if you've been counting, but this is our 15th kickoff show. And you should know by now, 15 minutes till kickoff, you can save 15% or more on your car insurance by switching to Geico.
Yeah, and if you don't know, now you know. All right, as always, this is going to bring our kickoff show to a close, but we will be right back here as soon as the game is over for the post-game show presented by Rico. Fran and me will be joined, of course, by Dave Spadaro and Ike Reese. Along with instant reaction and analysis, coach and players will be joining us live as well. Until then, we have an exciting one, a clash in the NFC East between rivals, the Eagles and the Cowboys. Playoff hopes potentially on the line. It should be a good one. Enjoy the game, everybody. And as always, we will see you on the other side.